So right before spring break, we started Module 4, which is about water around the world. Our guiding question that we will be exploring this unit is, why are the world's freshwater sources threatened? Three big ideas that we are going to be exploring. The first is that water is a finite resource. So unlike an infinite resource where we have a ton of the resource, a finite means that we have a certain number of it. So we don't have an unlimited amount, we have a certain number of water available to us. Next is the demands on water and water pollution threaten our freshwater sources. And we've been talking about that in the readings that we did before spring break. Lastly, due to rainfall, fresh water is not distributed equally around the world. So we are on day 14 today. So our learning targets are, I can reference the text to answer text-dependent questions. So referencing the text means we are going to look back to find our answers. Today you are going to be reading pages 9 through 13 of the text Groundwater and answering some questions on it. So as always, your groundwater text will be linked in your checklist, or we are going to read it. I'm going to read it to you here. So you have two choices. You can either go read pages 9 through 13 on your own, or you can listen to them here. So we're starting on page 9. Water fights. Halfway around the world, Pakistan's water supply has dropped by almost 75% in the last 60 years. Many in Pakistan blame India, their neighbor to the south. They accuse India of building dams that block river water that would normally flow to them. They say this has forced farmers in Pakistan to pump more groundwater. India says Pakistan has only itself to blame. It says Pakistan has managed its water poorly. Today, both countries that have fought 4 wars against each other in the past, face water shortages and growing competition for fresh water. Experts predict such battles over water will grow worse. If nothing changes, they estimate the world will fall 40% short of its water needs by the year 2030. Nearly 2 billion people worldwide could face severe water shortages, leading to food shortages and famine. In time, shortages like these can lead to war, experts warn. In some places, lack of water has already done just that. In Syria, for example, drought may have helped start a civil war in 2011. As a result, many Syrians have died. In many places, groundwater is that important, the difference between green farms or dusty fields, life or death. So I want you to look at this visual right up here. So it's the top 4 global water users. So it says compare China's population to the United States. Now compare their water use. Per person, which country is using more water? So if we look at India right here, in reference to their population, you can see a majority of their water is used for irrigation. The next most use is domestic use, and then a little bit of use for industry. So if we look over to China here, they use 112 kilometers per year. The United States uses 112, and Pakistan uses 65. So if you can see, China and the United States, we use the same amount of water per year, but China's population is much larger. So per person, we are using much more water than China is. If we look at this image over here, it's a Syrian girl flees war in 2011. Staying out of trouble. There is an old saying, it's easier to stay out of trouble than to get out of trouble. This is true about groundwater. Fixing this crisis will be much easier than waiting until aquifers run dry. We have to plan ahead, however. One growing threat to our groundwater supply is climate change. Notice anytime you see these words bolded, it means that if you go to the glossary on the last page, it's going to define the words for you. So, climate change is the long term lasting effects in Earth's weather patterns or the weather patterns of a region. Almost all scientists who study the Earth now agree that it's getting hotter. Climate change may also mean less rain for some areas, and fresh water may be harder to come by. Another huge challenge is Earth's growing population. More than 7 billion people live on our planet now. That figure is expected to reach 11 billion by the year 2100. All of us will need to drink and grow our food. Water to drink and grow our food. We must manage our groundwater now, and we can. Our best hope is to find ways to use less water and keep more groundwater in the ground. Experts estimate that about 65% of the fresh groundwater Americans pumped to the surface is used to irrigate crops. Yet many forms of irrigation waste water. They spray and sprinkle water on the surface where much of it is lost to evaporation. More farmers are using new ways to make sure every drop counts. New meters monitor or observe the process of something, moisture in the soil, and turn the irrigation on and off to waste less water. Many fruit and nut orchards now bury irrigation pipes to waste less water too. So if we look at our image under staying out of trouble, it's a drought in California led to many wildfires in 2015. Our image right here under farming smarter is some almond trees in bloom. Page 13. Planting different crops can also help conserve groundwater. In states such as Kansas and Iowa, some farmers are switching from corn to other crops since corn requires a lot of water. Farmers need new ways to farm. If they do not choose to conserve water, empty aquifers will force them to. So it says right here under our caption, wheat is one crop that uses less water than corn. And there's a picture of wheat right there. So think about it. What do you think the main ideas are on page 9 through 13? So remember, the main idea is what it is mostly about. So we can look back and use any pictures, captions, our headings, which tell us what we're going to be reading about. And sometimes our first and last paragraph in each section can give us some clues about the main idea. According to the text, what is one cause of groundwater levels decreasing? So this is according to the text, which means that you need to look back at your text to find your answer. So, after reading these and going back in your text, you need to be writing about the main idea, the evidence or examples from the text to support your thinking. You need to answer the question, what is one cause of groundwater levels decreasing? And what are ways to conserve water? Make sure to go look back at your text to help you.